Hello there. I'm Nick. I'm a fellow Academy member since its conception, and I want to talk about the movie The Odyssey with you guys. I just wanted to share some themes that I saw, and hopefully it opens up a door of dialogue. Or if you guys want to comment your own thoughts and stuff, I would love to hear them, and maybe we can get a wider conversation about it. I've already seen someone post about it in the quad saying they saw it and recommended it. So I just want to give more to that same vein of thought. So some themes that I saw in the movie were devotion, deception, and the importance of the king, the masculine figure, the father, the patriarch, role model, what have you. So where to begin? Let's begin with devotion. I think that was the most apparent because it kept switching back between characters. Odysseus and his son and his wife. Telemachus is his son, and Penelope is his wife. He is gone for a total of 20 years. I don't know if they tell you that, but you have to kind of piece it together. They're on the beach at Troy for 10 years, or outside of Troy, and then 7 years he's on the island with Calypso, and then there's all that intermediary time, which could chalk up the remaining 3 years. So Penelope has not taken a husband or has not entertained anybody other than Odysseus, and that was 20 years ago by the end time. So this idea that she's faithful and devoted to her husband is miraculous after 20 years. It's crazy. So that being said, it's like this not visceral feeling, but this heartfelt feeling of that love that someone has for the other, where it is the sacred union of two people, the husband, the father, your child's father, that she would keep herself pure for that long, and it was cool to see. It was an interesting thing. And so another part of the devotion aspect would be his son. His son was always interested in finding out what he could about his father. He didn't cast him off. He was always wondering when he would return. And I think it touches on the ideas that, with the startling reality of single parenthood in our society, in American society, or the wider culture for that matter, that single parenthood is hard and it's destructive, or can be at its worst, and the stats back that, and it's not good for mental health and all that. But with this, it shows you like the positive side of, if your father and the patriarch and the king is of such stock, he's such a good person, and they look up to him that much that even in his absence of 20 years, his son is still looking for him, still wondering, like, is he going to come back? Has anyone heard of my father? So I guess it's a common trope, or it's a not taboo. What's the word? It's what's the word? It's that word. Cliche, all right? Cliche. But yeah, he's devoted to the idea of his father. He doesn't even really know who he is, other than hearsay and secondhand accounts. So he's built up this thing in his mind, and then when he returns, it makes it that homecoming moment is that much more powerful. So there's that, and Odysseus' devotion in the story, he's not exactly the most faithful guy. They're all the women that he used were just a means to an end, but in the movie, he was always like trying to get back home. He was trying to get back home. But there was this part of him that didn't want to get back home. He thought, like, the subconscious, it was almost like a psychological aspect in the movie at some point, where deep down he didn't want to return. And this would kind of touch on these themes of like it kind of ties into the deception aspect. Like, maybe is he deceiving himself? That he says he wants to return home, but does he actually? Does he think he's worthy enough to return home? And so this is going to segue. This segues into this. It kind of makes me think of Aragorn in Lord of the Rings, where he didn't think he was worthy to try and be king. He didn't want to be king. He didn't want that power, but it's in his blood. He eventually has to. And by the death of Boromir, it ignites this thing, and he won't let his people fall, and he will return to the White City. But anywho, with Odysseus, he wants to return. He says he does, and he's devoted to this mission of returning home. He just wants to go home, get his men home, see his wife, see his kid. So, like we said, deception. The next theme I thought was deception. The whole Trojan War was won because of Odysseus' genius in this deceptive, underhanded tactic. I think it's seen as ungentlemanly, so that's why in the movie the whole movie is he's come to terms that that was wrong. By the end of the movie, he accepts that it was wrong to do that, and that he was not a very upstanding individual throughout his life in certain things. And so it all started with the deception at Troy, though, with the Trojan horse sneaking them into the city so they could sack it. So there's that. Oh, tricking the Cyclops. So they dressed up as, they put a bunch of hay and a bunch of grass around them, tied to them with a cord, and this let them escape. Long story short, they blinded the Cyclops. The Cyclops was feeling the sheep pass through under his hand. I don't know if he was keeping a head count or he just kind of had this sense that, all right, they're leaving. I can shut the door now, because they were trapped in a cave, and the Cyclops had the key, which was this giant door. He was just so strong he could move it. Anyway, so they figured that out. They dressed up as sheep, or they kind of made it seem like they were sheep, the now blind Cyclops, and then they were able to escape. So there was that, just using your head rather than brawn and whatnot. But it was funny. Before that, they were about to kill the Cyclops when he was sleeping. They were about to cut his throat, but it was pretty comical. It was like, what do you say? He's like, one was sitting ready to poke his eye out, I think, or they were just sitting there. The other one's like, all right, stab him in the throat. And right when he's about to stab him, Odysseus like, wait, the door. They're like, oh, that's right. So his brain over everyone's like animalistic instinct just to kill was interesting. Shows you, brains over brawn. So there was that. So that part of the deception, the Trojan horse, the Cyclops. Oh, he dressed up as a beggar on his return. When he returned, it was mentioned that he should dress up as a beggar, get a lay of the land, get a feel out how everyone's doing there. And he comes to find that his palace is overrun by suitors trying to bed his wife, and they're just rude and unruly, eating all his food. They're just not nice, and he's a beggar, so he gets Zeus's law is this hospitality of you feed and clothe and water the man if he needs it, and then you ask him questions, and then ask him what his business is. And so he's going around to these people at these tables and asking for food, and they're treating him like absolute trash, calling him a plate licker, throwing stuff at him. He eventually got a stool thrown at him, and so it shows that these people under his dominion, they don't know he's there, but under his dominion are acting very unruly and rowdy and not great. So he is getting the lay of the land there, and then, because if he was just to return, this is where the deception comes from, I think. If he were just to return and say, Odysseus, this is me, I am him, I have returned, he would have no idea how everyone was. They would put on this facade that, oh, king, you're here. We've been the most loyal of subjects, and I've been the most hospitable. More than likely, just based off of their character, they would probably lie about it. So there's that. But then, so as a beggar, he has a conversation with Penelope, and I think this kind of, she doesn't know that it's her husband, but I think whatever conversation they had in the movie per se, it ignited her to get these suitors what they want, but also she had this like intuition perhaps of Odysseus' return. So she creates this impossible task that only Odysseus can do, and he demonstrated it before and in the beginning of the movie, And so she said, "Hey, if one of you can string his bow and shoot it through these 12 axe handles, because they're all crisscrossed like this, and there's like a little space. If you can shoot it through all these, then I will bed one of you, or I will wed one of you." None of them can do it. They all suck. They can't live up to the ideal of Odysseus. They're not as good as him. And that's what's showing is he's the king. It's almost at a roundabout way saying he's king for a reason. None of you can compare. That's why you're all just lowly. I mean, they're all rich, but lowly of spirit. But in any case, as a beggar, people are telling him, "No, you can't try. Why are we letting this beggar try this?" So Odysseus, the beggar, is fiddling around with the bow, making it look like he doesn't know what he's doing, and then flawlessly strings the bow, whoosh, notches the arrow, plunk, through the 12 axe heads into the board with the arrow. And so everyone was like, oh, and then absolute revenge and carnage happens. He kills all the suitors and what have you. So, spoiler alert. So, deception on Penelope's side, but that kind of shows you, like, maybe that's why they're together in a way. They're both very smart. They both use their cleverness, their intellectual capacity to get their desires met. So devotion, deception. Oh, return to the patriarch. So this whole time, Telemachus wants his son to come back. Telemachus wants his father to come back. And his kingdom is in disharmony. People are rowdy and just unruly, and it's just not a good time. The place is coming to it's coming to its boiling point, and the suitors are pressing Penelope, and Telemachus doesn't have his father, and so when he returns, it's the re-establishment of order. Because without him, things are not so good. But to go into a more abstract concept, I think in the movie it was trying to show you, or how I'm perceiving it is, that it began with his deception at Troy, that he as a man and as a king had gone astray. And the whole journey was an amalgamation of him losing his way, and it got worse after each encounter. He kept losing more men, things got worse and worse and worse until it finally reached a point where he just had to surrender and submit to the gods, and then he finally was able to return home. But to find it in disharmony, so another byproduct of him losing his way as king. And that if the king is gone astray, it's a top-down thing. When the aristocracy gets a cold, the working class gets pneumonia. Kind of that same line of thinking. So this top-down hierarchy, or top-down, if the king is astray, the whole people, the rest of his people are astray as well. So I think that is where this movie was a resurgence of the classical themes of virtue and moral uprightness. And the whole time, though, they kept mentioning the Zeus's law, the hospitality aspect, that should be abided by for all. And he kept breaking that. So although he's a pious man, he was breaking Zeus's law amongst a myriad of different situations. Troy, the Cyclops, because they just barged into his cave and started eating his stuff. I guess Zeus's law applies to not just humans, but to all creatures under the sun. So they just barged into the Cyclops' home, started eating his stuff, and so the ungentlemanly likeness of the sacking of Troy, his own people throwing chairs at him, so that's like an instant byproduct of his lack of proper direction and leadership. I think is that he now receives the assault of his people because he's lacking his leadership. Although he's disguised as a beggar, I think symbolically it's more of an abstract picture of the people are in disunity because he is disunited. And he's disunited from Penelope this whole time too. So this coming together, this communion with his other half, once they're reunited, he reunites the family is reunited, going out farther. The community is now reunited. But before that, he was united with the gods. Because that is what this shade, I don't know who, I think she was a woman that was this ghostly woman. I thought it was Athena at first, I'm not sure. But this ghostly shade keeps following him and asking him these questions, and almost is like his conscience. And she finally says, you just got to give, I don't know if it was her who said it or someone else, but in the movie she says, you just got to give yourself up to Poseidon. You just got, maybe it was Circe, it could have been Circe, but she said, you need to just give yourself up. Like, you've been fighting this whole way along to get home, and not once have you asked for forgiveness or anything like that from him, because by tricking the Cyclops and blinding him, that was Poseidon's son, to come to find out. So Poseidon's pissed, I guess with good reason. So he's basically been cursed this whole way along, and he just needs to submit and take it, and he finally does. So he gives in to the highest order in this mythology, the uniting, coming back to atonement for his sins with the gods. And then he comes back to the family. He reunites with Penelope and his son. And then the community thus is then reunited under his rule, and he has driven out the snakes. There's a lot of undertones that spread over a lot of literature and a lot of stories, and that's why they're great themes. And this is a great movie, and this is why I think you should watch it. All right, thanks.